guys, welcome to another Culinary Rage, Cooking with Jazz, whatever the fuck Gerbil decides to title this episode. We're going to be doing something very special for me. This is a real recipe that I've been working on for 20 years-ish. It is a recipe from my grandmother that she passed down and told me to keep working on. So I did. So today we're going to go through the steps that I go through to make my meatloaf. It is a little bit different than traditional meatloafs in the sense that I do not use egg and breadcrumb to bind it. I'm not a fan of eggs. You will find over the course of this series that any chance I get to remove eggs from a recipe, I take that chance. I do not like eggs. Kind of a thing. I'll explain it in an episode of The Swear Jar one of these days. Listen to that. So what we're going to start with is cutting up some bacon. Alright, we're going to cut it kind of small, and then we're going to let it just put it in the pan, turn the pan on, let it get all that fat out, and let it cook in that fat so it keeps all the flavor from said fat, but we can drain it out so it's not in the final product. So let's get started with that. Also, if you're not fancy and have a butcher block cutting board like I do, don't worry about it. It's not mandatory by any means. I just have one. Also, blur brand name here. So then, this is bacon, obviously some nice bacon. Not too thick, not too thin. You don't want it on either side. Like, you want just some decent cut. Overly thick bacon, it's great for flavor and for like that crunch you'll get from it, but it's just, I don't know. It doesn't fit well with this recipe in my opinion. I feel like just a normal cut, what I would consider a normal cut, is fine. And there is no concern for the size, really. You don't have to cut them too thin or too thick. I stick with about ½ inch, quarter-inch to ½ inch cuts. You just go through. Get all of it cut up. And then we're going to move it over to a pan in a moment. So next on your list, choose your cookware. I have a lot of options in my my kitchen. I obviously prefer cast iron. It is the best, in my opinion. You can't do better than cast iron. And I have a personal preference of this. I've been using this one for a very long time now. It's gone through many cycles of being recured and reset. It's got to go through another one very soon. But it'll last for today's escapade. Do I suggest everybody have a wall of cast iron? No. Do you want to have at least 2 or 3? Yes. They are always useful. Get a 10-inch and a 12-inch, and you will never regret it. I promise. Now then, you want to start with a cool pan. Turn it on. If you start with the pan super hot already, it's going to sear the bacon, which we don't want. We want to render out that fat. So I'm just going to put it on high, medium high, and it's going to sit for a couple minutes. And over time, I'm going to start mixing it, and I'll show you what that looks like here in another couple minutes. And then once it's all rendered out and there's plenty of fat, I'm going to keep going, and then we'll show you the next product. Now then, here we are, about 2 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes has elapsed, and it's kind of like this goopy bacon. Now then, well, this is, yes, very edible. You could just take a bite out of any one of these pieces and be fine. It's smoked bacon, meaning it's pre-cooked. You could have eaten it right out of the package. Americans typically don't like soggy bacon. I don't know what it is. I like my bacon on the lighter side, but even so, this still has to render down some of this fat for a little bit. You don't really want to mess with it too much. I'm just kind of moving it around to show you guys what it looks like. Otherwise, I just kind of do this. Let it sit. Another couple minutes. I'll show you again what it looks like whenever it's done. Alright, once it looks like this, it's about finished. Now then, you don't want them to be cooked all the way and browned and all that, because remember, it's going back in the oven. And you don't want to overcook the bacon. It's going to be in the oven long enough to give this a good crunch, but you want to stir it around, make sure it's pretty loose. All the pieces have gotten good and heated. And then I like to just move them over onto a plate, covered in paper towels. You have like a good cloth that doesn't give up any of the fibers. You can use that. But paper towels are quick and cheap. Don't get rid of that bacon fat either. That's good bacon fat. You can still use this bacon grease for other things. Many other things. I'll get all that you can out. Just turn it off. When you're done, you'll have a nice little pile. Kind of like this. Spread it out a bit. It will be hot, but I've been working in the kitchen long enough. Doesn't bother me too much. And then you gotta let it sit and spend some time cooling off, because you don't want to mix that into cold meat. So this is probably the only part of it that I consider time consuming. Waiting. Until that cools off, you don't want to mix it into the meat. I mean, it doesn't have to cool off completely, but you want to give it a good 3 to 5 minutes. During which time, you do have the ability to gather up everything else you will need. Large mixing bowl. And well, you don't have to be, you know, a little bit crazy like me. Get everything all nice and set up. Got some Italian seasoning. This is some dried onion. Fresh is preferred, but kind of forgot to get onion. My bad. And just some garlic powder, because garlic makes everything better. Then the special ingredient of mozzarella cheese. As of recently, I have been trying out a new, we'll say, secret ingredient. I don't believe in secret ingredients, so don't worry. Everything I put in, you will know about. You might not get the exact measurements, because that's for you to figure out, but I will tell you what I put in there. So as of recently, I began adding some brown sugar. Light brown, just to kind of see how the flavor develops. If I like it, I'm going to probably start mixing in light and dark brown sugars to get a kind of medium brown sugar to move it up and see if I like a full-on dark brown. It's just a test, so we're going to see how it goes this time. Now then, since I've given my bacon a few moments to cool, and I have gathered my other ingredients, being about a pound of whatever, my preference Italian sausage, but whatever sausage you prefer. The casings don't bother me. I've talked about it in the shepherd's pie episode, that those casings are made out of intestines. Yeah. It bothers some people. To me, it's just part of the flavor. Then, blur product packaging here. You need about 3 pounds of ground beef. And some people have a thing about handling beef. I don't. You just slap that right into the bowl. If you have a grinder, good on you. Use the grinder. Grind you up some fresh beef. I prefer it. So, take your meat. I like to kind of pound it flat a bit. Make somewhat of a well. And then you go through and get all your sausages out. It's easier with a knife, but you don't want to do this, so you just lay it down, cut across it, peel that skin off. And you just set it to the side. Now then, to make it faster, get them all pre-cut. Just work your way down the line.
You bet your asteroid.
Now then, once you have all that, just kind of do a quick mix of the two. And then, again, I form it to the bottom of the bowl, making a little well for me to pour all my ingredients into. Okay, I'll start with bacon. Now then, can you put them all in at the same time? Yes. Do you get the same blend of ingredients in my opinion? No. I prefer to do them a little bit at a time. Getting all the meats mixed in together first. Kind of get them spread out amongst each other the best you can. And then make another well. Now then, these dry ingredients, all the powders and stuff, you can just kind of mix in all at once. Yeah. And as you pound it down, you'll see them just spreading throughout the mixture. And I like kind of doing this like I would, almost like I would knead a bread. More forceful, obviously. But just rotating and pushing it down. Folding it over and on itself over and over. Like you would doughs. Or like a biscuit, just making all this layered together. Then the cheese. Now I know what you're thinking, because you saw the last scene, where's the brown sugar? You'll see. It will be represented in this dish, I promise. It will be here. But that goes with something else that I'm going to do with this. all this off of me. Now then, when you're done, it should form a semi-stable clump. You'll have something similar to, well, a little smaller than a basketball. Much heavier than a basketball, though. Man, it'd be nice to have a crew to clean all this up. So I still have to do dishes after this. Then, I like using one of these double-layered perforated pans. I will use the bottom part of it to form my meatloaf. Get it formed out the best you can. You kind of want to even it out a bit. Try and get the meat and everything is spread out as evenly as possible, because the more even it is, the more evenly it will cook.
Are you recording?
Yes. Yeah, what you need, bud? Alright. When all said and done, you should have a nice even rectangle, a couple inches high, well, maybe about 1.5 inches. And then I like to just flip it over. Now then, you may have to recenter it on the pan and, you know, do a little bit of touch-ups across the top. That's nothing too major. Then, the special sauce, I'm going to put the brown sugar across the top in just a moment. As I'm still, like I said in the beginning, working out this part of the recipe, turn that water off for a moment, I haven't really figured out the weights to it yet, by any means. But I'm just kind of sprinkling it across the top. Now then, I'm going to put this in the fridge and let it sit for a while. I'm going to let it set overnight, because this is actually dinner for tomorrow. But you don't really have to let it sit that long. So far, my experience, about 2 to 4 hours is about where you want to start. You do want to let it sit in the fridge for a while. Like, this time I'm going to try a bigger layer across the top. Last time I did a nice thin layer. Don't worry about the clumps. There's going to be some clumps. You can kind of rub them up and massage them to where it's just the powder. And all that's going to soak into the meat. Man, Gerbil, I'm sorry. This is a really long shot. I have yet to cut it. $13 Oh, shit, dude. I'm sorry. Alright. So, now at this point, you want finished... Well. You know what? I'm just going to hold the camera. At this point, you will take what you have here, your quote-unquote finished product at the moment, and you're going to put it at the very bottom of your chill chest. Yeah, my fridge is kind of covered with stuff at the moment. You know, got a kid. Happens. But you want to put it at the bottom. So I'm going to have to make room for. As you can see, my refrigerator is a bit full at the moment. Or is it? Wahahaha. Power of multiple drawer or big fridge. Really nice. I love it. Now then, it has to sit in the chill chest for a while and cool off. Well, more of let all the sugars from the brown sugar just melt into the beautiful meatloaf that will be coming tomorrow, actually. For you, it's only going to be a couple of minutes. For me, I've got to wait a whole 24 hours for dinner, which is unfortunate because now I have to figure out what I'm cooking for dinner tonight after cleaning up this mess. But yeah, we'll see you in the next scene. Hopefully I remember to clap myself back in.
Bring Aiden with you.
Hey! So it's the next day. Meatloaf's cooked. Should come out looking kind of like this.
Dumbass forgot to turn the fucking camera on.
This is technically the take 2. I forgot to turn the mic on. Listen, not everybody's perfect. I'm still learning this shit. So,
Just surprised he's doing it.
suck my balls, Mr. Garrison. So here in a moment, I'm going to take it over here to my cutting board. I'm not using my fancy one. I'm just using regular cutting board today. I'm going to cut it up, but you got to let it rest for a couple minutes. Keep all those juices in. So here in about 5 minutes, I'll have the camera re-angled and set back up. Let you see me cut it real quick. And time for service. So, thanks to the power of editing, 5 minutes have gone by. And I've brought my meatloaf over onto my cutting board right here. Looks nice and juicy. And you just go ahead and cut it. Depending on how you feel, you cut different thicknesses. I'll usually do a couple of thin, then a couple of thick, a couple of thin. Honestly, just because my family likes random different size portions. And I like to cut the thin ones for the kids. Whoop. And as you can see, it all bound together quite nicely. Held really well. You can see some of the marble difference between the pork and the ground beef, or I can at least. See the bacon and all that mixed in. Then there's the cheese holding it all together. And there you have it. Some nice meatloaf for the family. All in all, between cook time and let me fix this. Whoop. Between cooking and prepping and all in all, took about two to 2.5 hours to do. Most of that, though, was spent sitting in the hot box, just cooking. So, this is something you can very easily do. This is something just about anybody should be able to accomplish. I will say, for an internal temperature, you kind of want like 130 to 140-ish when you pull it out, because it's going to cook more as it sits in that hot pan for a minute. So it'll get up to the 150, 155 you need to have it cooked all the way through. Yeah. Let me get a little bit of a close-up on that. Alright, I want to thank anybody who watched all the way through. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you make your own meatloaf and enjoy it yourself.